Hello everyone. It's day 37 and today I have April 9, Tuesday Indian Express newspaper, and there are four important articles that I found over uh, the entire newspaper. First is on the editorial page and obviously on the explained page. So we'll try to cover most of the topics. So let us start with the first article that is on the editorial page, which is titled as Quality of Growth. So Indian economy is comfortably placed. Government should focus on inclusivity and sustainability. So let us see what this article is going to argue. The Indian economy seems to be in a sweet spot with healthy growth, moderating inflation, strong FII, that is foreign institutional investment inflows, and healthy corporate and banks balance sheet. Recent economic data releases showing GDP growth at 8.4% in the third quarter of 2023-24 and PMI manufacturing at a 16-month high. So PMI, Purchasing Manager Index, at a 16-month high with of 59.1 in March are adding to economic optimism. Our credit ratio, that is number of upgrades to downgrades, is at healthy 1.92 in the second half of the 23-24 as against 10 years average of 1.57, reflecting the good health in the of the corporate and banking sector. But that's not to say that all is good. There are still concern, and the economy needs to trade cautiously in the new fiscal year. India has recorded above 8% growth in the first three quarters of 23-24, with chances of full year growth turning out higher than the advanced estimate of 7.6%. Growth in GDP has mainly led by the investment, while consumption growth is that is a good actually. Growth in the GDP has mainly led by the investment, while consumption growth remain weak. Consumption GDP is estimated to have grown by 3% in the year as against the pre-pandemic growth of 7%. The data may come as a surprise to many, even given the spending euphoria that we are seeing for items like cars, housing, jewelry, traveling. But lower price point categories like FMCG and apparels are somewhat feeling the pinch of cautious consumer spending by the masses. The silver lining is showing the silver lining is that rural demand that has been muted as that has been muted is showing signs of improvement. As per a Nielsen report, FMCG growth volume in rural areas has improved to 6.2% in the second half of the 2023 from 2.2% in the first half. Two wheeler sales, another indicator of rural demand, is also showing improvement. On the assumption of a normal monsoon this year, we can expect a improvement in overall consumption demand. So this article is about telling the inclusivity and all. So I would like to read the summary of this article. It is saying that interestingly, even with higher income interest rates, Indian economy has been seeing a rapid rise in the retail credit. As a precautionary step, the RBI has increased the bank's risk weightage for unsecured personal loans. This has led to some moderation in personal loans growth, but it remains high at around 18%. This trend is here to stay given the changing consumption and saving pattern in the economy and easy access to credit. While so far there are no signs of stress in banks' retail loans, there's a need for banks to remain vigilant on this front. So let us see another important article that why VVPAT was brought in. First, I would like to read about this article, which is about the citizens' climate rights that Supreme Court has given certain guidelines. So let us see what Supreme Court has said regarding the citizens' climate rights. So Supreme Court has ruled that people have right to be free from the adverse effect of the climate change, which should be recognized by Article 14 and 21 of the Constitution. A judgment by a three-judge bench of the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, and Justice B. Padriwala and Manoj Mishra was delivered on March 21 in a case relating to the conservation of critically endangered great Indian bustard. The judgment was made public on Saturday. So we have already covered an article over the great Indian bustard, which is critically endangered. So bench noted that in that intersection of climate change and human rights have been put into the sharp focus in the recent years, underscoring the imperative for states to address climate impacts through the lens of rights. So, what was the case before Supreme Court? The apex court's ruling. A ruling came in a writ petition filed by the retired government official and conservationist MK Ranjit Singh, seeking protection for the Great Indian Bustard and the Lesser Florican, which are on the verge of extinction. So, Great Indian Bustard and Lesser Florican. So, this is also important to note down, which are on the verge of extinction. The police sought, among other things, the framing and implementation of an emergency response plan for the protection and recovery of the Great Indian Bustard, including directions for installation of bird diverters, an embargo on the sanction of new products, and renewable of leases of existing projects, and dismantling power lines, wind turbines, and solar panels, and in around critical habitats. In the hearing held in March, the Apex Court was considering an appeal for the modification of its April 9, 2021 order, April 19, 2021 order, which imposed restrictions on setting up of overhead transmission lines in a territory of about 99,000 square kilometer in the Great Indian Bustard habitat in Rajasthan and Gujarat. So, how many courts? How have the courts interpreted Article 21? Let us see this heading. The Supreme Court has historically acknowledged Article 21 as the heart of the fundamental rights in the Constitution. So, Supreme Court has Article 29 as the heart of the fundamental rights in the Constitution. The Supreme Court has said that right to life is not just a mere existence, but it includes all rights that makes it a meaningful and diligent, dignified existence for an individual. In the 1890s, in the 1980s, the Supreme Court read the right to clean environment. Supreme Court read right to clean um, clean environment as a part of Article 21, a bundle of rights including the right to education, the right to shelter in the context of slum dwellers, right to clean air, the right to livelihood in the context of hawkers, and the right to medical care has been included in the Article 21. However, these new rights cannot be immediately materialized or exercised by a citizen. Despite the plethora of environmental rights cases, clean air is still a pressing concern. Such rights are actualized only when policies are framed and legislation enacted. The That said, their express recognition as fundamental rights helps in two key aspects. First, as a nudge to Parliament to take note of these issues, and second, by making constitutional courts an avenue for citizens litigate these issues in future. While dwelling on India's international commitments to mitigate the impact of greenhouse gas emission, the Apex courts also noted that despite many regulations and policies to address the adverse effects of climate change, there was no single legislation relating to climate change and attendant concerns. However, the absence of such legislation, the bench said, did not mean that Indians do not have a right against adverse effect of climate change. So, what are the implications of the judgment for environmental jurisprudence? Let us see. The environmental lawyer Ritvik Datta said that the Apex Court judgment puts the focus on strengthening environment and climate justice by elucidating the multiple impacts of climate change on a range of communities. A significant aspect of the judgment is the expansion of the Article 14. Over the last few decades, the right to life has been expanded by the Apex Court to include the right to clean environment. The judgment not only looks to curb environmental pollution but also proactively outlines environmental and climate justice issues, keeping our international commitments in mind, Datta said. Debatiyo Sinha led Climate and Ecosystem Vidhi Center for Legal Policy said the judgment will set an important legal precedent and will influence the broader public discourse on environmental matters and has the potential to shape future government policies. The Supreme Court has, on several occasions in the past few decades, relied on the Constitution to uphold human rights pertaining to environmental issues. This includes rights such as the right to live in a healthy environment, to enjoy pollution free water and air, to live in a pollution free environment, etc. Typically, such recognitions signify issues of broader public interest where existing laws and policies are inadequate. The acknowledgement of the right against adverse effect of climate change by the highest court establishes a significant legal precedent, Sinha has said. So there is important another important article that is about the Zaporizhia attacked again, the nuclear risk from reckless military action. So Zaporizhia uh, is a nuclear site, nuclear energy site, which is the largest nuclear power station in the entire Europe, not only for the Ukraine. So let us see. A drone strike at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant on Sunday triggered a new crisis at the facility that has been repeatedly brought to the brink of disaster by the war between Russia and Ukraine. Russia, which has been in control of the facility, Europe's largest for almost 2 years now, accused Ukraine of launching the attacks. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the global nuclear watchdog, confirmed there had been at least three direct hits, including one of the six reactors at the plant but did not say who was responsible. While nuclear safety had not been compromised, this is a serious incident with potential to undermine integrity of the reactor's containment system. The IAEA said. Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi said such reckless attacks significantly increase the risk of a major nuclear accident and must cease immediately. Zaporizhia is one of the five nuclear power stations in Ukraine, which meets almost half of its electricity demand through nuclear energy. The six reactors at Zaporizhia have the capacity to produce around 5,700 megawatt of electricity. The drone attacks came 3 days after the power station suffered its most recent loss of the external power supply. Nuclear power plants are connected to more than one external power source to run essential safety and security operations, including the critical task of cooling the reactors. The Zaporizhia plant has six eternal power lines, but outages or disconnections during the war have on several occasions left it dependent either on a single external source or on generators. The facility has suffered complete blackouts on 8 occasions since August 2022 and managed only on generators. The power station has also faced frequent shelling and mortar attacks from both sides, making it the most dangerous nuclear site in the world currently, even though other nuclear power stations in Ukraine have also suffered shelling and lost external power at some point during the war. Strong but vulnerable. Most nuclear reactors are made of several layers of steel and concrete and are designed to absorb shocks from earthquakes of magnitude 8 or even higher. Ordinary shelling or gunfire can't impact them seriously, and it is not surprising that the drone attacks did not cause much physical damage to the Zaporizhia station. It is, however, not clear how a nuclear power plant would fare against a powerful bomb or missile attack. Such an incident has never happened, and no country is expected to be so reckless as to bomb a nuclear reactor. However, the war found Zaporizhia seems to be testing that assumption. Okay, so this is about the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. So another important article it is about the VVPAT. So let us see what VVPAT is. With the first phase of the voting set to take place on April 19, the Supreme Court last week said that the petition seeking 100% verification or that is VVPAT slips would be taken up soon. In March 2023, the Association for Democratic Reforms (ADR) had filed a petition before the apex court saying that to ensure free and fair elections, the tally from electronic voting machines should be cross-verified with the VVPATs. Okay, so how what is VVPAT machine? VVPAT machine is attached to the ballot unit of EVM and provides visual verification of the vote cast by a voter by printing a slip of paper with the voter's choice on it. The slip of paper containing the candidate's serial number, name, and the party symbol is displayed in the machine behind a glass window, giving the voter 7 seconds to verify her vote. So this is about the when why did election commission introduce VVPAT? The idea of VVPAT machine was first emerged in 2010 when the election commission of India held a meeting. So it was emerged first emerged in 2010 when the election commission of India held a meeting with the political parties to discuss how to make the EVM based polling process more transparent. After a prototype was prepared, field trials were held in Ladakh, Tiruvananthapuram, Cherrapunji, East Delhi, and Jaisalmer in July 2011. After fine tuning the design, holding more trials, and taking political parties and election commission expert committee approved the design in February 2013. Later that year, the conduct of election rules 1961 was amended to allow a printer with a drop box to be attached to the EVM. The EVPAT was used for the first time in all 21 polling stations of the Noksen Assembly constituency of the Nagaland in 2013. After which, election commission decided to introduce VVPATs in a phased manner. By June 2017, there was 100% adoption of VVPATs. So why were VVPAT slips of only five polling booths randomly counted? To determine the percentage of VVPAT machines, slips need to count it to verify the accuracy of an election. The EC in 2018 asked the Indian Statistical Institute to come up with a mathematically sound. Okay, so this is about that only five randomly five polling stations will be counted to verify that whether the VVPATs are working properly uh, in tandem with the EVM or not. So, what has been legal cases surrounding the VVPAT? The VVPAT has been subject to multiple legal cases, starting with the Subramanian Swamy versus Election Commission of India, uh, in which Supreme Court ruled that paper trial was indispensable for free and fair election. paper trial was indispensable for free and fair election and ordered the government to provide funding for the rollout of VVPATs. Okay, so this was about this, and if let me see if there is another important article. So dual emergence of cicadas for the first time since 1803. True broods of periodical cicadas will emerge in United States this summer. So not that much important. So that's all from today's newspaper. I hope we have covered all the important articles very quickly. So let us meet tomorrow. Till then.